everyone, welcome to another interesting and inspiring episode of Love and Marriage with Seyi, where we celebrate thriving marriages and inspire our community to healthy, thriving relationships. Today, it gives me great pleasure to introduce Mr. Chuvalo and Dr. Mrs. Clara Truesdale. They met through a mutual friend at church, and the rest, as they say, is history. 29 years and counting, they have been happily married, and in their spare time, they enjoy volunteering in the community, reading, spending time just hanging out, and enjoying life. Mr. and Dr. Mrs. Truesdale. Thank you so very much for being with us today.
We're very honored to be here. It's our privilege.
That is awesome.
And I'd like to thank you as well. And so it's a great opportunity to talk about love in a relationship.
That is awesome. Thank you so much for being here. My very first question to you is, how did this story begin?
Well, I'll begin. We like to jokingly say we met based upon a, quote, little white lie. There was a guy who was working with me at the time. I just knew him very well. We worked in the same group. And he said that there was someone that wanted to meet me. And I found out that he also told Clara that, hey, I have someone for you to meet. So it was kind of awkward because I wasn't looking to meet anyone, neither was she. But we ultimately met.
Well, let me interrupt one thing, because he told me that he wanted to meet me. So he basically told us that the other one wanted to meet each other, and he exchanged the phone numbers. But the twist is that he asked me for my phone number because he said he had a friend who needed a doctor. So I didn't give him my phone number for a meeting or anything. I gave him my office phone number because I thought, someone wanted to make a doctor's appointment, so I gave the office phone number, and that's what he gave him. I don't think he ever gave me a phone number for him. He basically just mentioned this guy, so I'll just clean it up quickly and I'll let him finish. He called my office. That was maybe a Sunday. He called my office on a Thursday. It was the end of the day. I was returning my phone calls. It was probably the last phone call that I was returning, a patient call. And I basically called, and he said, when I called, his office receptionist answered, and I kind of tertly said, and of course I was not married, Dr. Wade returning a call, and I didn't really know how to say his name, so I said, Chuvalo Truesdale, and then he came to the phone, because Dr. Wade was on the phone, and that's kind of how we started talking. He said to me, yeah, JT said you wanted me to call you. And my response was, pardon me, excuse me? He said, yeah, JT told me you said give you a call. And my response was, I don't really know who you are. And then his next response was, it was a little awkward, but not bad. But I was impressed with the way he was thinking on his feet. And he said, well, you're on the phone, might as well talk. that's
I
how
like
we
that.
started talking. I was like, well, and then I listened to his voice, and it's the end of the workday, so I just started talking to him. I wasn't dating anybody, and I don't think I was really looking to date anybody, but I'm seeing on my imagination on the other end of the phone somebody who belongs to this voice. He goes to the same church, or we were at the same church at the same time. And we know a mutual person who kind of probably knows a little bit about both of us. So the likelihood of it being a disaster was a little less than a random meeting. So, but I'm sorry, I'll let you take it.
No, that's it. That's pretty much it. And the
Yeah.
rest is history. So
Yeah.
there's some
As
in
they
between,
say.
but the rest is history.
Well, yeah, you talk and you decide to meet. Even our first meeting was a disaster because he was going to come by my office on his way to work on a late shift, one of those days where he went to work at 4. He was going to stop by at 2. One of the rare times I got busy in the ICU, so I was not where I was supposed to be at 1. In fact, I was very late. I had already decided, I kind of, he sounded okay, articulate, he's got a job, he just, lots of things.
A legitimate job.
Yeah, so I decided I was going to at least talk to him. I knew he was from Carolina, and I'm thinking South Carolina, but he's actually from North Carolina. And I got to my office late, and I entered the parking lot, and then a car passed me, but I'm thinking that he's still there, perhaps. I see a red car in the parking lot. It was raggedy. It was horrible. It was a hoopty. And it had South Carolina plates. And I told myself, okay, you got to get over the superficial stuff. You got to get over things like this. He's a nice guy, sounds like a nice guy. I'm like, his car is raggedy. I said, if we go out on a date, we'll go in my car, I'm not going to get stuck on this raggedy car from South Carolina. So I'm going into my office. I'm like hurrying across the parking lot to get inside because I think he's still in there. And the car that passed me was like a silver streak. It was a Thunderbird.
Thunderbird.
It was
yep.
a streak that
This is
passed me. He
my
came
government
really
car.
fast because he was driving really fast because he knew it was me that came in. So he was hurried to get back to the parking lot. So I'm ahead of him. He gets out of his car and I hear Dr. Wade. And I'm like, okay, don't bother me. I'm trying to get in here to see this guy. So I turn, and this is the second impression that he made. He doesn't know this. So I turn, and I look, and I see this bright smile, this guy, this good-looking guy, coming across the parking lot, and his hands extended, and I'm thinking, okay, well, now who are you? I'm going in to see a guy, but who are you? And he says, hi, I'm Chuvalo. I'm like, okay, well, who's in the building? He goes, oh no, I had to leave because, and then I put it together. It was him and the guy in the red hoop. I don't know who that was. That was not his car. He had a nice car. So we talked for a minute. He had to hurry to work. I hurried in, and my receptionist, and they were just swooning. They said, did you see him? Did you see him? Because they knew he was coming to meet me. And I said, no, I missed him. They go, you should have seen him. He is so handsome. He was just like Denzel. They were just going on and on and on. And I finally told them, I said, actually I saw him. I met him in the parking lot. I said, yeah, he is pretty good looking. Yeah. And then right then and there, swore I was not going to date him.
You swore you were not going to date him?
She said I was too good looking.
I didn't need the
that
trouble.
I was probably a player.
I did not need the trouble. I did. I was like, no, I've already dated guys, I've gone through that, been broken up with for reasons. I don't even realize why they broke up with me. Then they want to get back together. I was done. I was a new professional, new doctor, really trying to establish myself in medicine. So I was really not feeling like I needed to be dating. I would like to be dating someone, but I was pretty serious. I didn't have a lot of free time. So it took a minute before we, became a couple. But I'm telling you the whole story. I'll let him tell something.
No, and the same here. I was at a point in my life, I was pretty new. I'm a federal agent, so with DEA and doing quite a bit of traveling and was pretty much content with being a single guy at the time. I was more focused on my profession and career at the time. So, but I wasn't disappointed, I must say. I was impressed with Clara, and again, the rest is history.
Yeah.
Tell me what was most impressive about her.
Well, I knew, obviously, since we met through someone at church, that she had a strong faith base, and that's always important. It's always important in a relationship, I think, to be equally yoked. So we knew we were starting off from a faith perspective. on the right, as one essentially. So, and I knew that she had strong work ethic. I knew she was a physician and worked hard to get there, and was at the time a partner in a practice as a junior partner in a practice. So I knew she had the drive and determination to not only get it right from a spiritual standpoint, but also from a work ethic standpoint. And I soon found out that she had a strong sense of family. And that's very important to me
Very
as well.
important, yeah. Yeah. That is awesome. So he stood out to you because he was handsome. And you kind of liked his voice, you said?
Well, he was handsome, he was educated, he was well employed, he didn't have a lot of peripheral responsibilities, didn't have a lot of debt. I'm very practical.
I like that. He didn't have a lot of debt.
And I think we both are. I kind of measure the situation and see what the likelihood of it being adequate to work with. You got to start with a good basis to work with, and the rest of you work it out. So, yeah.
And no kids, no baby mama drama.
Yeah, well, I was just saying, I was trying to be nice, saying no peripheral responsibilities. That's not always a deal breaker, but that is very difficult. That's much more difficult. And for me, I just couldn't put that into the equation. And that would have made life very complicated for us when we first got married. So I was happy that there were no kids between the two of us. And, the ability to discuss faith very early when you meet someone is good. And we're both very physically fit. I'll just put it that way. That's important to us. So that was another thing. But yeah.
That is awesome. Let me ask you a question here. So you both met by someone introducing you. What do you think about that? Now, I've had a guest on this show who believes that arranged marriages work better than marriages based on your feelings. For people out there, young folks, older folks, people that are being introduced, what would you say to them? And I know there is no one hat fits all, but what would you say to someone out there who is interested and someone says, hey, I want to introduce you to somebody, and they're like, no introduction, just leave me. What do you think about that?
I like to be organic, and I think the organic approach to me is the best approach because it's organic, right? It's natural. You take your time. You're not on a certain time schedule. I think you should take your time to get to know someone. Although Clara and I had a short dating period before we were married because we were at a certain phase we were at a certain age in our lives where we had, as she said, been through relationships. And we knew what we wanted, so it wasn't a long courtship before we led to marriage. But I think even for the younger person, I think get to know the person, be patient, make sure that you have a spiritual connection, and that's what's important to me.
I think you can actually, if you know the mutual person, there might be something to that because they know you two individually, like JT knew us two individually. Okay. I mean, he knew enough to think that, if it was something, we would actually take it from there. I think that's valuable because that common bond, that mutual thing, you can actually trust some of it. You start off on a ground level instead of zero trust and confidence, maybe 20-25, because number one, the person who introduced you does not want to be that person that you are just so angry with just because it was ridiculous. So I think I don't think enough of that happens these days. I think the younger generation feel like the volume dating on dating websites trumps the low volume quality encounter that is, just a more natural and normal. I know you, I know her, I think you guys might get along.
But the fact is, everybody's looking for true love.
Yeah.
Love that lasts, So from the beginning, sounds like you guys had a very short dating period, but you've been married for almost 3 decades now.
Yeah.
Can you share with us 2 things that you would say to singles, to married, but 2 actions that a person can take to help their marriage remain strong? Not so much the marriage as the relationship, the friendship,
I think initially being authentic. Right from the beginning, you are who you are. You know, a lot of people dress it up and make it look good and, you know, put a couple of years behind it. And you can't really hold those things, those falsehoods about who you are and what you believe and what you want and what, you know, I think you start very grounded. You do, I really feel strongly that you should be spiritually even. You get into trouble for saying this, but I think interfaith marriages are much more difficult to navigate than intra, because you got that same grounding of the same deity, God or whoever, and so that's where you kind of start. That's where you go when conflict happens. And if you got two different, and you know, you got one conflict, two different sources, you really, how do you get started? Because you got to start at the ground level of your basic faith. That's one thing. So be grounded and authentic and you got to be very raw. You know, I think I'm probably as headstrong as I was now. Day one, I am still that. I'm just more effective in how I use that. And the same thing with him. You know, we're just better at those things. Our weak points have sometimes turned into huge assets when we use them properly. The second thing is have really realistic expectations. People want a partner who has attributes, qualities, and things that they don't even have. I mean, you want somebody to be something that you really can't even attain. So you have to kind of be more, you have to have this point of commonality where you're speaking the same language on any given Tuesday and Saturday because you start from the same basis. You got the same spirit, the same soul, the same wants. Now, I'm not saying you have to be the same person because nobody could be, would be more different than the two of us. We're very different. But we land in the same place every day at the same place of faith, the same, even when it's bad, you know, the place of faith that holds us keeps us from complete destruction. It's near destruction, but not complete destruction. You can't, not annihilation. And that's only because we are tied by that bond. So unfortunately, spirituality and religion is not a huge thing for a lot of people. That's sad because I think that's the muscle that keeps marriages going well when they go well.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, the spirituality part is like the building block, the foundation. Without that, you don't have anything to stand on. And, you know, spiritually, if you're not equally yoked, again, it's just at some point in time, the foundation is going to give way. So we have always, as Clara said, she brought up some very good points. We've always leaned back on that foundation of our spirituality when we have problems. Also, I think people need to be flexible. They need to understand that, you know, you change. There's always an evolution. Hopefully there should be an evolution in a positive direction. You know, people change. You know, you're not really trying to get a person to change at the core, but you have to be flexible. You have to adapt. Because, let's face it, people in a marriage, they are together, but they're somewhat different. You know, they're different, and so you have to appreciate and understand the differences. And again, work at some point. Hopefully things will come full circle where you are a dynamic team, right? I mean, your spouse is going to have deficiencies, right? But if you complement each other well, you'll fill those voids.
You guys have used some words that I really, really like. You've talked about conflict, you've talked about flexibility and adjusting. You've also talked about complementing each other. A big thing in every relationship is conflict, because conflict is bound to come, you know. And so we'll talk about how to walk through conflict. But what are some daily stressors that you have from your experience? What are some daily stressors in a relationship, in a marriage? How do you walk through those stresses? Just tell us about two stresses that, I know someone has mentioned that children are probably the biggest stressor in a marriage. That's their opinion. What are some stresses that you have dealt with and overcome?
Well, I think it's important to have a good work-home balance. You which may be a little more difficult for Clara because she is a physician and her work often follows her home. And so there has to be a healthy balance there. And someone in my position as a federal agent and going in and being married to a physician, you have to appreciate that and understand that's part of the setup. It's part of it, and you come to appreciate it and accept it. And so I think a healthy work-home balance is important. I think that's one important thing. Kids as well is difficult because they obviously need you to parent, and so there are all kinds of things that come up. We all know that for those that have kids, and they just require your attention, and it does sometimes. You find that even depending on what's going on with them, that it seems that you're taking a back seat to each other, but it's par for the course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the best kids take work. People think problem or trouble. No, good kids require an investment of time and energy, and being around them enough so they can kind of see what you do as opposed to hear what you say. More is caught than taught. Mm-hmm. But you got to keep it in proper order. My tag name is Mrs. Mom Doc. In that order. But Doc is actually very important. Mrs. Mom Doc.
All right, now let's talk about that for a minute. So for you, it's Mrs. Mom Doc.
Yep.
A lot of people think it should be Mom before Mrs. Tell me where the disconnect is there.
Oh, you get in a lot of trouble for that, but it's clearly the proper order. I don't know. I just have known that for a long, long, long time and kind of stuck by that. I figure it's biblical, and I don't know where I heard it, but I know it was right when I heard it. It is Mrs. He might not think it's Mrs. Mom Doc, but it is Mrs. Mom Doc. I think if I'm a good Mrs., I'm actually an excellent mom, and if I can be that, then I will be at least a decent doc. I truly believe that. When I got married, I was actually well-established professional when I got married. And before 6 months, I changed my name, and it's not hyphenated. Mm-hmm. And I was partners in a very successful business at the time. And my partners were very wonderful men. They had wives and family and children. And when I announced that I was changing my name, and it was not Wade Truesdale, Clara W. Wade is now my new middle name, and Truesdale is my last name. They kind of were shocked because many people didn't expect me to do that. And why did I do it? Because I'm his wife, and number two, you go somewhere, we have all these functions, and I'm Clara Wade and he's Chevalo Truesdale. I'm like, no, as closely as I can get in the union of marriage, I need at least the same name. But that's no judgment for people who opt to not. That's just the reason I did that. And someone said, that's a risky business move when you change your name, you change your whole identity. I said, well, so be it. I didn't miss a beat. So I'm Clara W. Truesdale, Mrs. Mom Doc. Now he said something about I said tag name. Well, my license plate has worker bee. So he thought that's what we were referring to. So
I get it.
Yeah. So I just the order of things really makes life go a little bit more smoothly if you genuinely believe that. You can't fake that. So we do everything like that. We have 8 accounts. All of them have Chevalo and Clara Truesdale.
Oh, wow.
Every one of them. There's not a Clara Truesdale account. I don't think there's a Chevalo Truesdale account somewhere, but they're all a Clara and Chevalo Truesdale. Day one, didn't matter how much money was being made when we first met. My potential as a doctor is going to be much higher income earner, and owning businesses and that. It's disproportionate. But my husband is gainfully employed. He has been a career federal agent from 21, maybe 20 years old until now. Mandatory retirement is pending in May. He should have gone last year, but they asked him to stay. But if people ask me, is your husband a physician? No. And they wait for the next part. Well, what does he do? I say he's a federal agent, a career agent. And so, we both hold our own everything is in one pot. Those things really make it easier to sustain in conflict because we're so entrenched. It would just be a disaster to try to teasel it out. It's just too much. So, you know, those are things that kind of make you say, you committed, you changed your name, you did everything's together, you got these kids, you know, do these things together. Kind of like-minded in a lot of ways, although you're very different. I call that staying power. And back to the young kids, the young people now. In order to get to the point where you have that kind of authentic staying power, you got to show up authentic so your spouse or your partner knows what they're getting. He knows I'm a mad woman. He knows I'm crazy. And, you know, I'm very outward energy, high, you know, will kind of assert myself. He also does that, but he asserts himself by just staying, and it's almost like sitting and refusing to be moved, refusing to bend, refusing to yield. It's like a bull and a lion. It is not pretty. The conflict it can be potentially powerful unless you gotta manage that. Or there will be flesh torn and things broken, and you don't know whose piece is part, and it would be ugly because we're both pretty strong. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, very.
Yeah, I always say we're forced to be
strong-willed.
reckoned with. Don't mess with us.
Yeah, a good force to
Don't
be
mess with
to be
him.
reckoned with.
Yeah. So it's interesting how we
The dynamic.
roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, you know, what you've said about, you know, changing your name, one account, doing everything together, you know, already speaks to your heart, speaks to the sincerity with which you've gone into the union. Yeah. But if you're both very strong personalities, very strong individuals, how do you walk through conflicts? Who is the first to apologize?
Well, it depends on the conflict. You know, you definitely have to temper.
Is there a lot of apologizing going on in our house?
Yes. Yeah, you have to. Yeah, you have to. Not a lot, but you have to temper that because, like she said, we both are strong-willed, and I would say that again, everything is an evolution. You grow, and we certainly have grown in our conflicts. Sometimes I'll apologize, sometimes she'll apologize. So, you know, not one person, and it goes back to the flexibility. Not only one person in a relationship should be the one acquiescing, and again, it depends on the situation, but sometimes I'll apologize, sometimes she'll apologize. So again, there's been an evolution, and you learn to work better together, and there's going to be conflict. That's what's so important, that you have to tell young people that time is coming. Those times are coming. Trust me. Marriages are tough in that you have that relationship with your spouse is a lot different than any other relationship you have with anyone. Your friends, your parents, that relationship with your spouse is just a relationship in and of its own that you can't, it's just different. And nobody can, you know, it's just a different relationship. It's difficult, that makes it difficult, so. Claire?
Sometimes we don't resolve conflict. Just let it go.
Yeah.
Just walk away. Everything
Really?
cannot be solved.
Really? Then do you come back to it or just let it go, let it go?
Lately, because I think you get your seasons in your life, our kids are out of our house. So we have a lot of time, and expectations when they leave, you know, he might have had one expectation, I had another. You know, the kids get a lot of your attention when you're there, they're
really
gone.
do.
So this is attention
really
here.
do, yeah.
Well, no, I had other plans. I was just like, oh, I'm free, and so it didn't quite come like that, you know, and the timing and in the style, but you kind of decide, there's just some things that being authentic, sometimes you just have to give things time and space. It's hard, and I don't think it's fair to acquiesce to something. You say you go along to get along. I cannot really do that because that means I'm not being. That's very disingenuous, and I cannot be that person. So sometimes you have to table it and let it go and see if the air itself goes out of it. And then I've come to the point now, this season I'm talking about. There's some hills I'm not willing to die on. Okay, fine. I have opinions about stuff, and he has a different opinion. I'm always, beep. And he's like, no. And I'm, you know, you come back next week, beep, beep. And then next month, let it go. I don't really have to be, I don't have to be 100% satisfied with everything that I think he should do. 80% is good enough.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Can you tell people outside that, you know, make it plain, you know, that you don't have to get 100%.
No, there's no perfect. I mean, we are both imperfect in very strong ways, and we're not going to come together on some things because of the way we see things, receive information, process information, perspective. We just have two different types of job styles, different types of leadership styles. That's actually who we are, you know, and that's why we sit here 28 years later, I think we're fairly successful. I say we're a very successful couple. Our kids are very well-rounded, very happy with the way they have turned out. They have grown up in the manner that we wanted to. And this has nothing to do with what school they attend or not and what they do as a living. It has nothing to do with that. It's the grounding you see, the faith that they have, you know, let them tell it. We jammed it in them because, you know, we dragged them to church every week and, you know, we made them tithe and they got birthday gifts and they got gift cards and stuff. They had to tithe the cash and the value of the gift cards. And they thought, well, this is a gift card. This is not, it's money. So that was just horrible. Let them tell it. We didn't do a lot of the things that people do to make their kids happy, you know, sneakers and no, you don't need that. We don't, no. And so our kids, until I got to be adults, did not realize that we actually have quite, how do I put this? We ain't poor. They're like, what? They're like, these are our parents. So I got off on that tangent because we actually had to focus and raise them in a very narrow, intentional way. And we are very busy, so we had to put a lot of energy into it, which probably helped us remain married because we're very interested in making sure those children knew that just because it's not perfect does not mean you have to destroy it. You got to figure out how to make that work.
I like that. Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean you have to destroy it.
Well, some people will say also in a marriage, you know, it's not a good thing to stay married for the children. I think unless it's just a whole lot of abuse and negativity, it might be good to stay married for the children. But, you know, that's not the statement, the popular statement now.
No, it's not. It's not. It was when we were growing, you know, growing up, you know, at least you'll stay together because of the kids.
Yeah.
But what happens now the kids are older, the kids are gone? How do you keep your marriage alive? Going out is a good way to build your relationship, just spending time together, doing things together.
Yeah.
We actually do a whole lot of nothing together too. Nothing. You know, we don't do a lot of stuff. You know, now this will run it, but I watch some TV shows with him that he likes. I'll sit there and watch, and actually I'm kind of getting drawn in. So that, now one thing we actually do a lot, we have very much in common, is it's a sense of humor. He's silly, he doesn't look silly, but the ability to laugh for me is very good. I use humor a lot. It's very, it's almost like an anxiety agent. You know, it's actually been shown that laughter is actually
that
very
laughter
good.
helps.
So we try not to take ourselves too seriously. We are serious people. We are about the business. We have proven that we can do what we need to. I think we were forced to be reckoned with. I really do. But, you know, we're serious, but we don't take ourselves seriously. So for that reason, we really don't have to do a whole lot of out mingling but we're not going to Valentine's Day dinner because we're so practical, he and I, that I'm like, we're not going to go eat bad food that's marked up.
So you'll cook Valentine's Day dinner at home and eat? And
what do we do for Valentine's? Whatever, but you know, we just have never had that thing where we got to put on hard bottom shoes and go sit at a restaurant and eat the same steak that costs $15 or $25. Now it's $70. I'm like, no, this is.
But we'll do that sometimes, and it depends on what day of the week it is.
But not for like Valentine, the art of, you know, that. What most couples, and that's great, what most couples see and do is fine. We just are almost like the anti-establishment.
You like to do you.
I really do. I don't like
And that's what it's about.
Perfectly
Like
fine.
you said, being authentic.
Yeah, too much
Doing
work,
you, what
yeah.
makes
Right.
you happy,
Yeah.
what speaks to you.
We're
and
boring.
Tell us one thing. It's Valentine's. Before we get there, it's been a long journey, and I know so much has happened day by day, year by year. What is one thing that you have discovered about him that you really value and treasure, but you really didn't know was there until after you were married? Or you have about her that you didn't know was there before you got married?
I'll go first. I think I just took for granted that, Clara's very intellectual. And, I know to go to medical school, you have to have to be pretty sharp, pretty smart. But I must say my wife is a very smart lady, very smart. I give that to her, and she's very generous. She's very generous with what we earn. We do more exponentially tithe and all that, but she's very, very, very generous, big heart. And her core friends she has is important to me too. She doesn't know it, but I'm really impressed by the core group of friends she has, mostly females, but she has just a number of friends, and they're just tight. They're thick as thieves, and they have known each other for many, 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 many years. And although they've known each other for a multitude of years, they'll go to battle for each other. They've seen ups and downs, highs and lows. They're very consistent. So I'm just really impressed by her tight friendships.
Thank you. That means a lot.
That says a lot.
That's
Yeah.
a lot.
To have friendships like that says a lot.
Yeah. Two things quickly. One I always knew. He's very kind. And I don't have anybody who knows him to say he is so nice. He's such a kind guy. This guy will take care of critters and creatures and things. He will go out of his way, to the point that one night, he brought in our house a mother opossum, who had died. But she had 8 babies, so she had really recently died. I guess our dog might have attacked it. She was dead, she wasn't playing possum. So on this possum is like 5, 6, 8 little babies suckling. And I'm out, and they send me a picture of my daughter, and they said, Dad has this thing. And it's in my house on a shelf. And I get home, and I'm like, I am freaking out. This thing is, first of all, ugly, if you know what they look like. And it's got babies. You see them, they're suckling on their mother. And I'm like, why? Why? So he's called, DHR, the people.
Animal control.
Animal control. He's called these people. You need to come get these babies because they need to be taken care of. And I think they came and got it. They came and got it. I was like,
wow.
I'm like, just leave them out there. They will run out of milk and nature would take its course. He was not going to let those little ugly things die. I knew then, I'm like, this dude is very compassionate. So he does that across the board. He's very kind. Secondly, he's coming up on a retirement, and I always knew he was good at his job, and he has made sacrifices in his job, not taking advancement, because advancement meant that he would have to travel or move. And we already agreed that we're not going to be living in 2 cities, me and the kids and him, back and forth. So he actually made that sacrifice and has been at the same level for 30 years. He could have been, top of the ranks at DEA.
Although I do get my step increases over time.
But now that he's retiring, and I'm looking at the totality of what he's done, I don't know many people have done the same job well for 37 years.
Oh, wow.
Same job, No, he didn't do it well. Does it better and better and better, and just will change directions and do whatever that is better. And next thing he does that well. It's all in that thing of being a federal agent, but it's different task, and people absolutely love him. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Say something to your husband that you just something you want to say to him, and you say something to your wife that you want to say to her. Something she may or may not know. Something you value and appreciate about her.
When I say I love you, it's more than just cliche. And love there are lots of levels of love, right? But I just thank you for being my wife. I thank you for being the mother of my children. And we've had our issues, every couple does. But I think going forward, I would love to just the issues that we have had, kind of wipe the slate clean and just be better. And we've always talked about being better friends.
Yeah.
Right? Being better friends.
Yeah.
And to really work on that and to really cultivate our relationship. And Clara likes to say we have more time behind us than in front of us.
Yeah.
And so just take full advantage of the time that we have in front of us, especially upon my retirement, although I may be doing other things. I think it's a time for us to do us.
Yeah.
Oh, how sweet.
I'll just add to that, the important thing he says about me and my girlfriend, we thick as thieves, we roll out for one another. I want to have that kind of relationship with him, you know. And we were talking about, we are respectful, we're hardworking, we love each other, I don't think we have been as good friends as we could have been, because we didn't take the time to appreciate the strengths. This is one of those things we're doing to say, okay, let me figure out who it is I meet every day at the end of the day, so I can really appreciate. And then, you know, you become friends and stuff like that. And so I really respect him. I have not been the best friend to him, and unfortunately he's seen an example of how I can be a good friend, because he told you. So that's really heartening for me. And, you know, I don't think we need to change a lot other than just that intentionality of just sitting still with each other and let that be okay.
Oh, that is
He already
awesome.
knows I love him. I mean, you know, we kind of like, some things you can take for granted. Like
take
I was
for
going to marry him
granted.
because he had no kids, no debt. And I know he loves me. Clearly, yeah. Yeah, so.
Clearly, you've stuck with each other 29 years and counting.
Absolutely. I'm not going anywhere.
Just a beautiful, beautiful love story. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing with us today. Thank you for the love that you spread into your world, into our community. Thank you for the young adults you've raised for our community. And thank you for your service to our community. Mr. and Mrs. Truesdale, thank you so much for being here with us this evening. Thank you so much.
It's a wonderful job.
All right, friends, this is what we talk about when we talk about love. So here we have with us Mr. and Dr. Mrs. Truesdale, and they have shared with us. For our love and marriage hopefuls, there is absolutely nothing wrong with friends introducing you to other people. It could be a good thing. For all of us, there is power in spending time together. Conflict resolution. You have to work on that. Being adaptable, flexible with each other. Very, very important. Believing in the best in each other, working through things together and growing together are the bedrocks of a good relationship. And there we have it, y'all. Another interesting episode of Love and Marriage with Seyi. Until I see you again next month, keep God in the center of your relationships and keep building a healthy, strong, and thriving relationship.